Alright, so this is the second video that we are featuring local hobbyists here in Singapore, and I really want to thank you for all the support that you have been giving, because we have grown significantly since the first local hobbyist feature that I did like 2 to 3 months ago. Definitely every time you leave a like, or when you hit the subscribe button, or when you leave me a comment, it helps the channel, it helps us grow together. And I really do enjoy editing especially this type of video, this local hobbyist feature, because this is where that I've chosen to invest in trying to produce much higher quality content. And it's not that I don't put in effort to my other videos, but this is where I really go all out and experiment with different styles, try out new skills. So do consider subscribing if you are a local. Then you just know that you will get great local fish keeping content, and if you're an international viewer, then you're gonna get a peek into Singapore's aquarium scene, which, trust me, it is pretty good. In today's video, we are featuring a saltwater reefer. He has been featured by reputable brands in their magazines, online. Don't worry, freshwater is the bread and butter of this channel. That said, I think you are probably like me, and we love fishes as a whole, we love aquariums as a whole, and just get an introduction, a taste, and appreciate this cousin hobby of ours. And if you guys do like the saltwater content, then do go down to the comment section below and let me know. And your comments really do matter, because if I see a lot, I will go out and get more saltwater content. I read all your comments, I reply to all your comments, and your comments do matter because they let me know what you want to see. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoy today's video.
I would say favorite fishes are maybe this clown fish over here. Yeah. It's been with me since day one, 3.5 years. So they spawn every 2 weeks or so. So yeah, very nice addition. It's very nice to see them hosting in the anemone as well. Really pleasant to look at.
So when you say they spawn, you get
eggs.
And you get them every 2 weeks?
Every
batch is successful?
I have not exactly tried to take them out to rear them.
So why do they hang out around the anemone? Is it?
It's a symbiotic relationship. Somehow it's a natural thing for them to do. They protect the anemone. At the same time, they will bring food. You know, sometimes I feed them. They will bring food to the anemone and feed them. Wrasse over here, it's called splendid wrasse. This happens to be a male wrasse. Yeah. So when I first bought it, it was a female. It was a red and orangey and yellow in color. Interestingly, they will change sex to male. Yeah. So there's something very interesting about marine fishes, even clownfishes as well. Usually the bigger ones are females, and the small ones are males, and they can kind of change sex.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something.
I heard it's something like when the I think there'll be one male or one female, is it?
Or be one female, then
one female.
Plenty
and
of
then when the one, I don't know, leaves or dies, then the next biggest in line will become the female.
Yes. Corals, I would say something I really like. In fact, it's very hard to pick one. Everyone is nice and unique, but maybe the one that I really like is the green Bali Slimer back there. So I got this as a small frag, a small piece from a friend. It was a couple of inches big only. I think in about 2.5 years, this has grown to about this size. It's a mandarin. So those are really nice fishes as well, but also very difficult to keep. Typically, you need to have a lot of small organisms called copepods to sustain its food source. Copepods basically is small bugs. They look like bugs.
Are they visible to the?
They will come out at night. You can see them.
You can see them.
You can see, yeah. So that's why those mandarin fishes are not so suitable for tanks that are quite new, because you do not have a large population of those pods. Okay. Usually with older tanks, you tend to have a bigger population of. Hi, my name is Leon Tan. I'm 48 this year. I am an engineering manager working on industrial and commercial printers, manufacturing. I'm married, no kids. Okay, my hobbies, I like travel photography. I have a couple of adopted cats and of course reef keeping. With this hobby, I think I've done a lot of DIY stuff. I like to make things myself. For example, for this tank, I did the piping myself, the structures all were so-called DIY, kind of build it up. Most of the corals also were in a way propagated from very small pieces, and I think over the years they have done relatively well. Quite proud about it. So for me, I love this hobby. It's really fun. I am quite active in the local Singapore Reef Club forum, also on the WhatsApp chat group. Basically, to share knowledge, share information, and to help some of the new people come up to speed in this hobby. I do help out occasionally with some farm tours. I've done that in the past. I also helped out in one of the local polytechnic projects as well. I think they were trying to do some coral propagation project. My wife is supportive of the hobby. You know, this hobby takes a lot of time. It also takes a lot of space in the toilet and in the kitchen. So she's tolerant of it. Well, I'm just kidding. She's very supportive of it, and I'm really very appreciative. Aside from that, I think when I'm on travels, traveling overseas, she will help me keep an eye on the tank as well and feed the fishes for me. One of my proudest moments, I would say, would be to be featured in Aqua Illumination's signature series sometime in January 2018. So this is where they showcase some of the really nice tanks from around the world. Well, how I got featured was I was quite active in the local forum, in the Singapore Reef Club forum. I posted pictures right from the start of my tank build. I shared a lot of pictures, shared a lot about insights on how to tune the lights and equipment, shared some success stories with the tank, and I think that kind of got their attention, and then they contacted me and featured me in the signature series. This tank is 2.5 years old. It is 5 feet by 2.5 feet by 2 feet tall. So that works out to roughly about 220 gallons or about 850 liters total volume size. But I got this cabinet second-hand. I made a new glass tank. Also, the rest of it was DIY. I started with a 3-foot planted tank a couple of years back. Did that for about 1 year, got a little bit bored with it, and I converted that 3-foot tank into a saltwater tank just to learn the ropes. I did that for 1 year. I thought it was a really fun hobby. Then I upgraded to this 5-foot tank about 2.5 years ago.
Now maybe we just run through, because okay, so like, of course, I'm a freshwater person,
Okay.
and a lot of my viewers are freshwater as well. So maybe you just introduce us to the different fishes and the corals, and yeah, just share about the inhabitants of the tank.
Okay, sure. So, so this is what we call a mixed reef tank, okay, which has both SPS. Okay, SPS stands for small polyp stony corals. Okay, so those are the ones on top, and also LPS, large polyp stony corals. These are the ones here. Okay.
Right. So SPS is those behind.
Those bigger like sticks
Right,
of
the big
corals.
green one you're talking about.
Yes, those are all SPS, and then the softer ones are typically what we call LPS.
LPS.
Okay, SPS generally are a little bit harder or more challenging to keep. They just have more requirements, such as they need stronger lights, more flow, cleaner water parameters. LPS are generally more forgiving, I would say, so suitable for people to maybe get into the hobby, right? They don't need so much flow, they do not need such strong lights, and I would say the water is not too clean or perfect. They're okay with it.
Right.
Okay.
So like, do each coral have like a specific name to it?
Yes. Yeah. So for example, these are here are kind of LPS called torch corals. So various colors. So some of them might have a fancy name, like this one over here. They call it a holy grail,
Right.
torch coral. Okay, but personally, I just like them for their colors. Okay, so I think back there you see some of the small round
Yeah.
corals. Those are zoanthids,
Sure.
and so some people call them zoa or zoos for short form for short. Okay, and these are actually very, very colorful corals, and there are hundreds and hundreds of them, and they are very easy to propagate. They grow very, very quickly. Okay, another of my favorite coral is this big round thing in the middle. Those are candy cane.
Which one?
The light green.
The one right in front. Oh no, no.
The one behind the green.
Okay,
the big green ball. Okay, so that's called a candy cane. When I first bought them, I think I bought like 3 to 5 heads, and it has propagated so much. You can see even more of those on the sides as well.
Right.
So they have really grown. They are just great.
So how do you get them to grow? Clean water, food, is it? Food and light?
I would say
Okay, are they like plants? Are they like the plants of saltwater? Can you compare that if you're a freshwater person? Can I think of it in terms of plants?
you can think of them as plants, but in the reality they are actually animals.
They're animals.
They are animals, and they have colors because of zooxanthellae, okay, which is a kind of algae inside the coral that gives the color. So again, it's a symbiotic relationship. Okay.
So corals, what do they consume?
Okay. So corals are able to survive with a light alone. So in a way, because as I mentioned that they have zooxanthellae that will photosynthesize and provide some of the energy for the coral. Okay, so they can survive on photosynthesis, and at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that is actually floating around in the water.
Right.
Okay, the tentacles do come out, and they're able to kind of capture some of that food. And of course, at the same time, I do feed them occasionally powdered food or some meaty food, and they will eat that.
So you inject it in, is it?
I'll just dump it in the water, let it flow. It will pick it up. For LPS, most of the time they will feed at night. During the day, the tentacles will be inside, but at night when the lights are off, all the tentacles will actually come out.
All right.
Okay.
And then this over here, you're saying is what do you call it?
This is an anemone. So this is what we call a bubble tip anemone, and it was actually, I think, was given by a reefer. And as they grow, they will actually split.
Right.
That's how they propagate.
So is it considered a coral? No.
No, this is considered an animal.
Animal.
It's an animal, yeah.
Right, and the clownfish likes to.
Yeah, the
chill
clownfish.
inside.
Clownfish would generally try to host in corals. Of course, I think in the wild, anemones are their natural host, but sometimes they will host on other corals as well, like the torch corals.
Right.
Okay, and typically they will lay their eggs close to where they rest.
Okay. So in fresh water, when you set up tanks, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have things like we take into consideration for the fishes, your surface dwellers, your bottom dwellers, and then sometimes we set up based on maybe more biotope, based on area, based on this. So when you set up a reef tank, when it comes to fishes, are there do they come from a certain? Do you set up based on a certain region of the ocean, based on a depth, or is it based on which ocean they come from?
Okay, so when selecting corals, let's say talk about corals first. Okay, so when selecting corals, do take note that some corals need more light, like SPS. They need more light, so you place them on top.
Right.
And LPS generally they need less light, so generally you place them further below. Okay. In terms of fishes, in my tank, I would say most of them are useful fishes. Okay, I have a lot of tanks, okay, like those over there, and they actually eat algae. Okay, so I don't have an algae problem in my tank, and I have a couple of bottom dwellers, like this over here. It's called a spotted mandarin.
Right.
So this cute little fella actually eats pests. Okay. There will always be pests lying around, so they will actually take care of that quite a bit. Okay, back there you see something black. That's also a sea cucumber.
Right, the one.
It's the edible type. So I have a couple of sea cucumbers in my tank, and so these will also, in a way, they will go around the rocks and eat any uneaten food.
Also, they can move around.
They move around very slowly.
So are you ever able to see them moving, or you just see them change spot?
You can actually see them moving. Yes, yes.
All right.
Yes.
So in here you have clownfish.
Yes.
This spotted mandarin.
Spotted mandarin.
Tanks and okay.
So that yellow one's a yellow tang. So that's a very popular colorful fish. This one over here is called a purple tang. The purple one with a yellow tail.
Right.
And this one with the orange spot. That's also a very popular fish. It's called Achilles tang. Okay. One thing to note about tangs, about marine fishes, is that generally they are very territorial.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And so if you want to add, they're generally very territorial, and they do not like fishes of the same family or same shape or color. Okay. So if you want to add multiple those kind of fishes, you need to time it properly. Either you add them all in at the same time, or if let's say it's an established system, and let's say if I want to add another yellow tang, I need to take my tangs out, okay, displace them for a while, put the new fish in,
right,
and then put the old fishes back.
Right.
So it's a very strange thing, but
so is this more so with tanks, right? Like I'm from what I understand, clownfishes are not so aggressive.
Oh no, they are very aggressive.
Don't they school together?
No, they don't. They don't. So so for clownfishes, the trick is to add clownfishes of different sizes.
Right.
Okay, so
they can establish the order clearly. Correct. Is it?
Let's say the system that you have, you want to add a clownfish, maybe you add a very small fish, so it becomes a male. So you know, as you say, it has that hierarchy.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
So what about this one over here?
Okay, so this is a mated pair. So these are Watanabe angels.
Wow.
Okay. Also, one thing to note about fishes that you pick is that you need to pick the right fishes, because some fishes eat corals. Coral is their food source.
Yeah.
Okay. Like certain angels will eat LPS. So if you want to keep those fishes, you can only, and if you want to keep corals, you can only keep SPS corals. Okay, so pick wisely. For me, I have angels, the Watanabe angels here, but they are considered reef safe, so they leave my corals alone.
So when stocking with your fishes, with reef tank with fishes, you wouldn't go so far as to consider which area they come from or something like that?
Not so much. I would say primarily compatibility between the different species in my tank is right. Probably more important. Basically, they can live in peace. Yeah. Okay. One thing to note about corals is, I would say, taking care not to introduce parasites in a tank. Right. Corals that you buy from outside tend to have a lot of parasites, like flatworms, which you can't really see. Okay, and then when you put it in, it infects the other corals, and it's a pain to actually get rid of that flatworm. Just like plants, when you have like bugs growing, it's very painful. Yeah. So the best, I would say, there's a best practice of when you buy new corals, dip it in a coral dip. To actually get rid of the pests.
Coral dip is a special solution, is it?
It's a special solution. In fact, I have it right here just to show you. So this is one example. There are many brands out there, but this is the one I'm using. Okay, so you just pour a small amount out in some tank water, and then just dip your corals in there for a few minutes, and blast it with a turkey baster or pipette. And if there are bugs, the bugs will actually fall off.
Right.
Okay, rinse it and then put it inside your tank.
Okay. You mentioned that you started with a freshwater tank, right? So, why the switch to saltwater? And how was it difficult to switch over? What difficulties did you face?
Okay, so I started with a freshwater tank a couple of years back. I thought it was a little bit straightforward. Okay, I mean after a while you get a hang of it. The planter tank kind of grew very well.
What did you keep inside?
I think it was like carpet. I tried a couple of different scapes. The HC carpet, grass, Iwagumi, is that what they call it? Rockscape, and all that. So
you went all the way. You went as high tech, CO2.
CO2, LED lights. Yeah, so it was. I did like 2 or 3 scapes within about a year plus, and then just kind of got bored with it. It was like gardening, right? I mean, every few weeks or month you need to kind of trim things.
Yeah.
And that was that.
And what fishes do you play around with inside?
I cannot remember the names of those fishes.
Neon's basic, or something more fancy.
The more basic fishes.
Resboras?
Yes, a lot of schools of Resboras, some Placo, these
Brisonos? Or
L183, I can't remember what the number is. It's all those spotted bristle nose.
I think I'm not sure if it's a starlight or something like
Starlight.
that.
Yeah. I had some of those. That was so long ago. I mean, it was fun. It was definitely very fun, learning curve. But after a while, I kind of got bored. Friends introduced me to saltwater, reef keeping. You look at the YouTube, Facebook pages. Colors are just so amazing, and so I decided to have a go at it.
So you started with the 3 feet, right? Is it 3 feet?
Yes.
With fresh water, and then you convert it into salt water.
Yes.
So what were difficulties you faced, or what do you have to learn? What was the differences that you had to understand about saltwater?
I think firstly the tank needs to be saltwater ready. My mistake, I would say, was I converted the ADA 90p tank, the 3 foot 1 by 1.5 tank, into saltwater. So I needed a sump for saltwater tank, ideally. So I made my own sump and did an overflow system. And it uses a siphon overflow, which also means that there's always a risk of overflowing and stuff like that. So I would say I would recommend people not to take that route. If you need to you want to start with saltwater tank, get a proper tank that has a proper overflow and a proper sump tank.
So a tank that basically was pre-made for saltwater, is it?
Yes.
So you wouldn't recommend getting if you go out and just buy a basic 3 feet tank which is just from scratch and nothing else?
Yeah, that probably would not be good enough. I think saltwater tanks typically has, as you can see from my tank, is you need the water needs to be quite pristine, in pristine condition. So
right.
You need a space to put the skimmer, you need a space to put the biomedia, and then also the return pump. So most people, I would say, will get tanks with a sump.
So even if you run a smaller saltwater tank, you will still go with a sump, is it?
I would recommend having a sump. I think that just increases the chance of success. Okay. But yes, of course you can. If you don't want a sump, you can get something called an iOS, which basically has a space at the back of the tank where you can put some biomedia, maybe put a small skimmer. That works. I think a lot of people have been successful with it as well. But you're just limited by the type of equipment that you can put in there.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe for start that's okay, but if you long term you want to have a more elaborate system, get a proper tank with a sump tank.
Okay. So talk to me about the upkeeping of this tank. So you mentioned that once every 2 weeks you change 10% water.
Yeah.
And what else do you have to do? Is there any dosing you have to do or any?
Okay.
Yeah. What's the upkeeping like?
Okay. So generally, maintenance of this tank is quite straightforward. The fundamental thing is a water change. Again, some people believe no need to do water change, but for me, I'll say a 10% minimum every 1 to 2 weeks. Okay, so that for me is 100 liters. So start with RODI water, good salt mix. Mix it to a salinity of 35 ppt parts per 35 ppt, yeah, or 1.026 specific gravity. So make sure that we use a good refractometer for that. So this is
Right.
is
So
something I use,
PPT and specific gravity are just two ways of measuring
it's just
salinity.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah.
So this you just dip it inside, is it? This,
No, so you basically put your water here and look inside the
Oh.
lens here, and then they will tell you your salinity.
There's a reading.
Yes,
that comes up.
there's a number over there.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, get one of these. This is good. Okay. So get a good salt mix it to the correct levels, and then
Right. So water change once every 2 weeks. Feeding, you say twice daily.
Yes. So feeding. So for convenience, I think it's always good to have to feed them on pellets. Okay, it's just for convenience. Get a variety of pellets, meat based and algae based. Okay, because like in my tank, I have a lot of tanks which actually eat a lot of algae. So make sure that we choose the right type of food for them.
And you say you feed certain powders for the corals, right?
Yes.
So these are different food. These are fish. These are food that the fishes won't eat, is it?
Yes, they are very fine. I would say maybe like 30 to 50 microns or even 100 micron size particles.
Right. So microns is the measurement of the size of a particle.
That's right. Yes. And because in a sea, water has a lot of organisms floating in there, and the corals are able to kind of capture that. So in our tanks, generally it's very clean. Okay, so once in a while it's good to kind of dose this powder to feed, especially the SPS.
Right. So you say what, 15 to 30 microns?
Well, it ranges.
Yeah. Did you have to like ensure that your filter is at a bigger micron filtering, or do you just turn it off when you feed?
So actually it doesn't really matter. I would say for me, when I feed, I actually my system is able to go into feed mode. So basically slows the pumps down so that the water doesn't overflow into the sump.
Right.
Okay, and it just remains in the.
So you ensure that your filter is not just cleaning out all the food that you just put in.
Yes.
So if someone doesn't have this auto feeding mode that you have, then they will have to manually shut things down, is it?
Yeah, but I think most people don't even bother with that. They'll just let the filter pick it up.
Right.
It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what about the cost of running saltwater in terms of electricity? And you mentioned your lights are 500, is it? What?
400 watts. Yeah.
400 watts. So what do you think like your bill in terms of food, electricity, everything add up? Yeah, salt and all of that. How much would you estimate someone who say will run a 5 feet tank?
5 feet for my 5 feet tank, I would say my electricity and water comes to roughly $80 to $100 a month. And then in terms of the other additives that you add, I would say maybe $50 a month.
So about 150 a month to run 5 feet saltwater.
Yes.
Okay.
So in terms of additives, in terms of maintenance, there are a couple of other things that we need to take note of. Is you need to test your water quite regularly. I would say minimum once a week you need to test for calcium, magnesium and alkalinity at minimum. And then if it's a little bit off, try to correct it by dosing supplements separately. Yeah, and of course also what's also important is trace elements additives. So personally I use things like this active elements and iodine. There are a couple of different other items.
Yeah.
So these are some of the ones that really work for me. So about twice a week I will dose. I think the dose here says 5 ml per 100 liters. Okay, once or twice a week. So this is what I use.
So this is for corals, is it?
This is all for corals.
So I'll say in a saltwater tank, most of your work and costs is because of the corals, correct?
Yes, actually that's very true.
So actually, what would you consider your main focus? Like, okay, so when it comes to like fresh water, right? Usually when it comes to aquascaping, we say that the plants are the main focus and the fish are the decorations. And then for other fish keepers, of course, it's the other way around. So in a saltwater, what do you consider your Are you more fascinated by the corals, or are you more fascinated by the fishes?
So to me, I would say it has to be a mix.
For
me, a natural reef, a coral reef, if you go out there, is a good mix of fishes and corals.
And the way they that you call about, you say that symbiotic relationship.
Yes, yes, in a sense,
right.
yes.
Okay. And so, what do you think is the most common mistake or mistakes that people make when starting out? So that's why you mentioned that your mistake was not getting the appropriate tank, right?
Yeah.
So what are some other common mistakes that people make when starting out in this hobby?
Okay. To me, I'll say common mistakes will be to rush into the hobby. Patience is very important. For example, when cycling a tank, you need the tank to cycle for a good 2-3 weeks before you add your fishes or add corals. And you need to add them slowly, right? Not buy like 5-10 fishes on one weekend and then just dump it in. So I'll say patience is very important. Another one also is, as I think I mentioned earlier, that the order of adding the fishes is also important. Else there's a lot of aggression and there will be death. Certain fishes are susceptible to parasites and disease. For example, the Achilles tank over here typically do not do well when we add in to the tank straight away. Okay, they will not eat and they get white spots very easily. So for certain fishes that are not so hardy, I would say make sure you have a good quarantine system outside first. Train it to eat. Make sure it's disease free for a couple of weeks before you add it into the tank. So I would say these are key things someone starting out should follow.
And then, so when you talk about starting a tank, corals first or fish first, or together?
Together is fine.
Together is fine.
Yes.
So even corals, you would recommend bit by bit adding, is it?
Yes. Or bit by bit, understand the parameters. Make sure they do well before you add more. Have friends to kind of help you out. Have join a chat group, join a forum. You know, there are people who can give you good advice.
Is there any Facebook group or forum that you would recommend someone start to join?
Locally, the Singapore Reef Club forum, Facebook page, they have an actual forum out there.
So it's called Singapore Reef Club, is
Singapore
it?
Reef Club, yes.
Okay.
SRC, and the chat groups. And then folks there are generally very helpful. You get recommendations on good and best practices. People do advise don't do certain things, and also sometimes they have tips and contacts lobangs for good prices on where to buy certain things.
Okay. What would you say is the biggest misconception that people have about saltwater keeping? I know that, okay, for me, what it comes to mind is first thing is people always say a lot more expensive, and then also a lot harder to keep.
Okay.
So are these true, and are there other misconceptions that are out there, and what is the biggest one that you've heard of?
Misconception. I think it would not be wrong to say that saltwater keeping is harder. There is a steep learning curve, but I think once you learn the fundamentals, and get your processes correct, it's actually very straightforward. Have a simple system, have your dosing, maintenance regime going, everything will keep growing and they stay alive.
Right.
No issues at all.
Okay. And so, I think this last one, if you have anything to add, if not, I think you've covered quite a lot. It's just advice for someone transitioning from freshwater to saltwater. Okay,
advice, read up. Don't rush into it, go read up. The internet.
So basically a summary of everything you've covered, right? So choose the right tank.
Yes.
Right, get the appropriate tank for saltwater.
Yeah.
You're saying join a group.
Yes.
And basically have someone that can guide you.
Yes.
And then don't rush.
Yes.
Quarantine.
Yes.
And regime.
Yes. As I said, I want to say, kind of read up and make informed decisions. One thing I've also not mentioned is get good and reliable equipment, because I think a lot of folks starting out is they buy cheap stuff, okay, and they realize that after they upgrade, they have to change, spend even more money, or they buy things from Taobao,
Right.
And some of these things are substandard, really. So get good and reliable equipment.
Okay.
Okay.
So first is the declaration that this is not sponsored. So what brands do you generally trust or go with?
Okay. So for lights, I would say what I'm using, Aqua Ilumination Hydras are good, affordable lights. There are more expensive brands out there like the Ecotech Radions, a little bit higher end, but they're also very, very reputable. In terms of wave makers, the one I'm using I think is very good. They are the Ecotech Vortec wave makers. And then for the return pumps, I'm using the Ecotech Vectra pumps. Again, they're all the same brands, so they're able to integrate into a mobile app. So I thought that was quite good.
Right.
And in terms of aquarium controller, I would say it's good to have one to kind of keep track of things when things go wrong. I'm using the Apex Neptune. That's one of the better ones out there at this point, quite affordable. So this one I'm using.
Okay. And so last question before we end off is for someone looking to start maybe a 3-foot reef aquarium, how much do you think, what is a good amount that they should set aside to start up? When you got like startup costs, everything from the lights, Sump, all of that. What do you think is a good amount to set aside?
For a 3-foot tank, probably about 1.5K to 2K.
1.5 to 2.
Yeah, so the tank and cabinet will probably set you back about $800 to maybe about $1,000.
Yeah.
Lights will be, depending on what you get, maybe $500 to $800, and just add up from there.
Right.
So. Well, this is a 5-foot tank, about 850 liters in total. It's lit by a couple of LED lights over here. So these are Aqua Ilumination Hydra lights. There are 4 units of the Hydra 52 and 3 units of the Hydra 26.
So how much power does that take up?
Well, each one, the max power is about 135 watts for the 52s and about 95 watts for the 26. I run probably about 80-90% power. So I would say maybe about 400-500 watts of power easily.
Right, so you even have this is for the background, right? To get the light.
Well, it's just to have some light coming in from the front, so that I get more even coverage, and so there will be less shading, because as the coral grows, it kind of shades the other corals.
Right.
So this kind of helps. One nice thing about these lights is that they're modular, so if you need more, you can always add on. Some of these lights were also from my old tank, my old 3-foot tank, and when I brought them over, I just added on. So really, there wasn't much wastage at all. But these, I love these lights. They're really, really reliable. Other equipment-wise, I have a couple of wave makers in there. So these are wave makers. These are the Ecotech Vortec wave makers. I have 4, and these provide very good and strong flow throughout the day. So good flow is very important. Number one is it brings food and oxygen for the corals, and also some of the fishes need strong flow to make sure
swim
that
against
they swim. They need to swim against very strong flow. It's very important for their health, because without swimming enough, they tend to get fatty liver problems overall. So it's overall good for the health. Good random flow as well. It's important to keep the tank, the sand bed clean. Okay, so there will be dirt or what we call detritus left at the bottom of the bed. So a good flow will kind of bring all that up, and for it to go down to overflow and be filtered away.
Right. So you have two over here.
Yes, a third one there.
Third one there.
And a fourth one over here.
So are they all on at the same time, or do they take turns?
They are on all at the same time, but one nice thing is that they can be programmed to different settings for power during the day, so that it's in a way a little bit more randomized. You do not have dead spots in the tank.
So how did you choose the spots? You just random as well, or you have a strategic way that you put in certain areas?
In terms of placement of the wave makers, the fundamental rule is first, if you have the first wave makers should always be at the side, middle of the tank and at the side.
Right.
Okay, to kind of blow across, and this just brings the most waves across. If you have additional wave makers, then you put it behind.
Right.
That's typically what I do.
Okay.
Yeah, and one thing nice about these wave makers, let me show you, is the Ecotech wave makers are nice because the wet side can be detached. So the dry side is on the outside,
Right.
the wet side is on the inside, and coupled by magnets. So this is really nice because the warm part is outside. It doesn't put the heat in the water, and then you can take this out and kind of wash it very easily. So it kind of encourages you to keep things clean, maintain the tank. So it's just very convenient. And if you have additional sets, you can always take one out, wash it, put it back a few days later.
Right.
Yeah, and then put a spare one in the meantime. Okay, so going down into the sump. So water flows down. It goes through. So water is filtered with this automatic filter fleece. So this is a Clarice, a DD Clarice filter fleece. Okay, so in the past we used to use things like a filter sock or filter wool.
Correct.
And when it gets clogged up, we just throw the wool away. With this, water goes in. Once the filter fleece is clogged, water level rises, and it will advance a little bit every few minutes. And so, in a way, the dirty fleece is removed very, very quickly, and really keeps the water clean.
Right. So this you only have to replace it when the whole roll gets used up, right?
Yes.
How long would that be?
And for me, this roll will last roughly about 1.5 to 2 months.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so that's really very convenient. Okay. Water goes into this compartment. That's where I have a lot of biomedia inside there. And this is in a way, one of the most important equipment. This is a skimmer. So this is a Niles 220 skimmer. Real workhorse to kind of keep the water clean. You can see all these dirt it's being gathered over here.
Yeah. A lot of bubbling and foaming.
Yes, the foam, and then it takes away all the organic waste, all the shit, urine, and whatever, all the dirt comes out.
Yeah.
Okay. For me, usually for most folks, it collects in this cup, and they have to empty the cup maybe once a week. For me, it drains into an external bucket on the outside, which I can show you later.
Okay.
Okay. Over here in the middle, there's more biomedia back there, and then this is a media reactor. So this is a Niles Talk media reactor, where I have something called ROA Force media in there. That's to remove phosphates, so that's quite an important water parameter as well. Okay. Other things I have in here is a chiller. So my tank is cooled with an aircon compressor, 1 horsepower chiller, and then the coil is placed over there.
Right.
Okay. So if you have a small tank, I would say a normal chiller, 0.5 horsepower or less, should be sufficient. But if you have a tank, let's say 4 or 5 feet in size, I would recommend using an aircon compressor instead. It's just more efficient and overall cheaper.
So you run it only once a day?
The aircon compressor comes on every 3 hours.
Every 3 hours?
And then it will take about roughly 25 minutes to chill 1 degree C.
Right, okay.
Okay. And then the rest of it, I have 3 pumps in there. So 2 back into the main tank, and 1 to run the rest of the reactors. I would say it's very important to get good quality and reliable equipment, and not stinge on that. For things can go wrong. You definitely need good quality equipment.
So these reactors are for biofiltration, is it?
No, not no. This one is not. I'll explain more about this shortly.
Okay.
So I mentioned earlier that I have 2 return pumps, one to the main tank. Actually, I have 2 because it's a backup as well. In case one fails, I actually have another one running. Okay. This thing here is called a calcium reactor. So basically, what it does is filled with coral chips inside, or I have other media called aragonite. Okay, and what I do is I inject carbon dioxide in here. I inject carbon dioxide into this reactor, and it will actually melt the coral chips. Okay, and it will drip the the water back into the tank, which
Right.
will provide calcium, magnesium, and alkalinity, which is needed by the corals to grow.
Right. So it basically helps you get your hardness and pH correct, is it?
And calcium and magnesium as well.
Right. The calcium and magnesium is for the corals.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the temperature that you always shoot for in this tank?
Well, the temperature controller is set to between 27 to 28 degrees Celsius. That's probably good enough for the corals that I have.
Right.
Some people might have certain corals that's more that requires lower temperature, so sometimes they do set it a little bit lower. But for me, 27 to 28. Is
Okay.
enough.
And do you monitor pH and all of that?
I do monitor pH, but okay, I do monitor pH mainly for the calcium reactor. Okay, so the pH in here cannot get too low, else it will melt all the media.
Right.
If it's too high, it will not melt the media.
Right.
So I measure pH more for this, not so much for the tank. I do monitor it, but
So you need
doesn't do very
it
much.
to be slightly acidic to melt this, is it?
Yes, I need it at roughly about 6.2 pH to 6.3 pH.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and then I have also another reactor here. This is a biopellet reactor. So inside here there's some polymers, biodegradable polymers, which will feed the bacteria, and then this bacteria, as it multiplies, it actually consumes in a way nitrates and phosphates. Okay, and then it's piped into the skimmer, and then it gets skimmed out.
Right.
So this is what I use to actually keep the water clean to reduce nitrates.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Aside from that, I would say what else is important is to try to use a bit of technology to make your life a little bit better. Okay. So I would say keep maintenance simple. Okay. For example, I have a skimmer neck cleaner here.
Right.
That actually cleans the skimmer neck because it gets very dirty.
Yeah.
So this runs for about 1 minute twice a day.
1 minute twice a day.
Kind of keeps it clean.
Okay.
Okay. I also have most of the equipment I have, like my return pumps, is hooked up to the link to the internet, to the cloud, so that if it, for any reason if it stops, I get a mobile app notification that
Right.
it stops communication. This thing is also I also have a aquarium controller here. It's a Apex Neptune aquarium controller that actually monitors the pH and temperature, and also has some timers for specific things in the tank. Okay, I also have some like leak sensors, for example. So this is a leak sensor over here. So if it detects any leaks, it will notify me, send me a mobile app notification, send me an email as well. Okay. So for me, in terms of maintenance, I do about 10% water change every 2 weeks. So 10% is roughly about 100 liters.
Right.
So I have a couple of 100-liter, I have 2 100-liter drums in the toilet. So that takes up the shower area. So yeah.
So you have to, because for salt water you have to mix the salt in first, right?
That's correct.
And then you leave it to sit for how long before you?
Well, I collect. Okay, so we cannot use tap water for saltwater tanks.
Right.
You need to use tap water is not pure enough. Okay, so you need to use an RODI filter to make sure that you get rid of all the chlorine, copper, and all the other impurities. So you start from a clean slate. Mix a good salt in. Typically, you want to mix a salt for about maybe 2 to 3 hours. Not too long.
Not too long.
Not too long, because when you mix it, you use usually people use a pump to mix it, and the pump generates heat.
Right,
And
so
if it's too warm, it actually precipitates. The water will turn cloudy. So I would say about 2-3 hours when things have fully mixed. That's good enough and ready to be poured in.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, do let me know if you guys want to see more saltwater content, and I can get Leon back and he will share more about beginner setting up and things to look out for, how to choose coral. So if you guys are interested, do go down to the comment section below and let me know. If not, don't forget to turn on your post notifications so you get notified every time I upload. And if not, I will see you in the next video. Ian out.